Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. First of all, I want to thank the organizer of this conference. I feel very grateful and very honored to be here. And I'm very sorry that I'm not there with you. Well, now I will share my screen in order to start my presentation. So here I go. Chile is currently engaged in a process to reform its constitution. Reformers are attempting to establish some way of taking Chile's multiculturality into account. How can a public historian be an actor in this process? What kind of actor is a public historian? An activist, I would say, but not an activist in the sense of espousing a precise political position, but rather of materializing the values that are behind interculturality, a values activist. I understand interculturality to be the recognition of different identities and the importance of giving them cultural recognition and political agency. Therefore, the first step to have an intercultural attitude is to recognize asymmetry in the epistemological realm, as in the cultural and political arenas. Additionally, the existence of these identities must be formally recognized by the state. Thirdly, they must be empowered politically in order that they have the tools for changing their own realities and destinies. I want to share with you the possibility of being an activist of certain values in a specific institution. How does a public historian curate an exhibition at the Chilean Museum of Pre-Columbian Art, taking into account the interculturality discussion? I propose that the aforementioned activism for values can be accomplished through this process. I was invited to curate an exhibition of Chilean and Peruvian colonial textile. I made the choice to interpret textile as a garment that materializes interculturality. I was inspired by Martin Luther King's words, and I quote, "In a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality." End of quote. Different threads are being woven and interwoven where several traditions, skills, techniques, and technologies are present. If these threads are not interwoven, they do not result in a garment. So we need all the threads to be represented in dialogue, in contact, overlapping. This is a metaphor for the value of including all voices, hearing them and making them visible. The denser a textile is, the stronger it also works when coping with problems. This is also a good metaphor to understand society as a fabric which needs to be dense, consistent, and well-woven to resist conflicts and to provide a solid structure. I don't want to define what activism is and elaborate on its theoretical realm. I would like to start from the position I have already mentioned, that one ought to first identify the values to be held up before engaging in the activism piece. In this specific case, we chose to value dialogue. This involves careful listening, working side by side on a project together horizontally and dialoguing about it every step of the way. This means that other traditions and knowledges have the same values as mine, and that what we create is the result of working together. If more than one person is involved in dialogue, we have a polyphonic dialogue. I believe that weaving different threads to create a textile is similar to dialoguing with other people to create reality of which we all feel part. Every instrument and every person are crucial. Both the process and the product deserve our attention and valorization. If one of the most relevant issues for my country, Chile, is interculturality, the best political act and choice for the dialogue, the value we wish to uphold, is to invite an indigenous textile maker to be my co-creator. With this actor, it becomes possible to weave a discussion about indigenous and colonial textiles as they embody the memories, the technology, images, and oral tradition of this art. Yes, art, because I recognize this is another political position, taking the textile as serious art rather than something folkloric or a science or technology. I believe that indigenous and colonial Andean textiles deserve a very high status in the art world. I want to present here the three crucial pillars incarnated in strategies, dialogues, and decisions. These three pillars have occupied an important place in the public discussions over the last years. Interculturality. As we seek to make this exhibition intercultural, it is not enough to recognize that different ethnicities and cultures inhabit our land. Rather, they must be granted power through a major role. This power is achieved by giving a representative speaker for another culture their own agency and the possibility of manifesting their own vision and historical discourses. With this goal in mind, we invited a Peruvian Quechua textile weaver to be the co-curator of the exposition. Therefore, she has been involved as a key actor from the very beginning as we considered the exhibition's concept, as well as its pillars and goals and the selection of pieces to include. We have worked with Nilda Callañaupa, the creator and the founder of the Centro de Textiles Tradicionales del Cusco, a Quechua textile maker from the very beginning of this project. We did not incorporate her later on in the process. The concept of contacts arose through our polyphonic dialogues between Nilda and the team and is articulated through the pieces. Additionally, we have sought her voice and thereby the voice of all the Quechuan weavers as she espouses by reading her 4 books, watching the many interviews she has been given, and accessing her website. The strategy of choosing a Quechua weaver fulfills another political goal. It demonstrates that the Andes region has value beyond the nation states of which it consists. This is important because Chile shares a common history with Argentina, Bolivia, and Peru. These relationships of the past continue into the present. These continuities cannot be ignored by those who contemplate the relational policies among these neighbors. Art is a very good ambassador for differing and shared traditions, and it brings together diverse audiences from all over the world in the museum space. Gender. The exhibition sheds light on gender issues. Women are exclusively in charge of the exhibition, as you can notice in this slide. But more importantly, textile making in the Andes has traditionally been associated with the female realm. What textile makers highlight most about their work are the abstraction and mathematical skills that are required to address all the stages of textile production. This is very interesting, as these types of skills have generally been associated with the male gender. The colonizing process. The exhibition underscores the importance of the colonizing processes. Through contacts, the defining concept of the exhibition, we, the curators, sought a process that encompasses the tensions and the possibilities that contact entails in the past, in the present, and as an ideal for the future. Contact is not necessarily the same as an encounter, a term that historiography has used to describe what happened after 1492. This concept has been discarded by historiography because it implies a positive and equal relationship between cultures. Today, we know that this is not the case. Therefore, encounter is not the term we are looking for. But we don't want clash either, because we want to show that contact allows us to objectivize the different interactions that occurred among cultures. Violent and bloody contact has occurred, as has tense and abusive contact. Other contact produced miscegenation and Hispanic American art, categories that reveal the complexity of the issue. Contact also allows us to talk about an ideal, a world in which we can contact each other in the public space, contact each other in profound ways in order to weave a plot that unites us. Contact also allows space for the participation of various cultures. It breaks down the binary divisions between winners and losers. It is a call to polyphony. Contact implies the exchange of knowledge, traditions, iconographies, materials, technologies, and aspirations. The result of contact is a realm of hybridizations with infinite cultural and material dimensions that allow us to understand the contemporary world and intercultural life. And I will show you some slides to shed light on this contact. For example, we can see contact through time with these continuities, as we can appreciate with this slide. The one at the left is a contemporary piece made by the Centro de Textiles Tradicionales del Cusco that was inspired by pre-contact and after contact with the Spanish time. As you can see in this tapestry on your right, that was made in the 17th or 19th or 18th century. And I wanted to show the continuities in the iconography, but also in the ways that they use the space of the tapestry. There were also contacts among people. And here you can see the contact between the body of the woman in the Andean past with her loom. And here on your right, you can see the ways of labor in a late colonial time and pre-modern time, where the obrajes or workshop were described as almost enslavement. There is also contact if you talk about the consistency of the iconography that were incarnated in different mediums. As you can see, the symbol of the Inca ladder here in this chuspa. The chuspa is a bag made to hold coca leaves, and you can also appreciate here the Inca ladder in this quero, that it is a ceremonial vase, in this case made of wood. You can also see the consistency if you see this unku. The unku was the garment used by noble men. And what I want you to see here are the tocapos. The tocapos are these geometrical symbols that are inside the square, that you can also see them here in a 17th or 18th century canvas, where you can see a noble woman that also is dressed with a garment with tocapos, that you can appreciate them here and here. And here is a piece made by the Centro de Textiles Tradicionales del Cusco, where they also reinterpret the tocapos. And I also want to show you some contact through continents with different peoples in different in different contexts, as you can appreciate in this textile that was probably made by Chinese hands in Manila at the 18th century, but was made there and then it came back to Latin America. Well, and to finish now these slides with these two phrases that are important for me. Andean textile is evidence of the variety of processes and an artifact that can be used to visualize a polyphonic dialogue. And I want also say that these artifacts and the concept of context attached to them allow us to practice public history. Well, thank you very much, and I hope that we will have time to talk about this.